I'd like to call the meeting to order of the City of Monona Planning Commission, Monday, February 27th, 2023. Please call the roll.
Sam Moll.
Here.
Alda Holmquist.
Here.
Ms. Fowler. Here. Mr. Conrad.
Here.
Mr. Homberg.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Mr. Stein.
Here.
And I'm expecting Mr. Grice, but I haven't seen him just yet. So.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 13, 2023?
Move approval.
Motion, do I have a second? Second, we have a second. Any changes, corrections, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. We are going to stick to the order of business in front of us this evening on the agenda. With that, I'll move to appearances again. If there's anyone that would like to make an appearance that is not a public hearing on the agenda this evening, we need to have you fill out a form, and this would be the time for you to speak. Lisa Ann, were you guys wanting to speak? You can certainly be called on during the public hearing portion. No, you don't need to fill that out. It's just during the public hearing. Just want to make sure we weren't omitting you straight by you grab the pen. So, good. Okay. With that, we'll close the appearance section, and we'll move to item number 6, unfinished business, public hearing on the request by Madison Pediatric Dental and Orthodontics, LLC, for approval of a zoning permit for construction of a new dental office at 220 West Broadway, case number 2-019-2022. With that, we'll turn it over to you all to come on up to the microphones here, if you would.
You want all of us or just?
Whoever wants to speak.
Good evening.
Yep.
My name is Ian Wilson. I'm representing the doctors and the clinic. I also have Aaron Blankenfeld and Jen online here too to answer any questions. Thank you for your time tonight, and this is an exciting night for us because it's been going on for quite some months. So how would you like to proceed? Just ask questions, or
if you could actually just give a brief overview of sort of where you are now, and especially in comparison to like the last time.
Sure, absolutely.
That would be great.
Yeah, so we had a pre-hearing. I think it was on the 17th, I believe it was. So we're back again for final hearing, hopefully for approval to move forward. We're looking to take down the existing building on site that we had gone through extensively to try to reuse and utilize for the dental clinic, which is an expansion and a new build for the doctor group, which is going to be facilitating that. They're in a lease space right now, and that is, outgrown or not fitting their needs. We went through the process of trying to utilize the existing building, but due to the grade changes, elevations, so on and so forth, that became very clear that with the needs of the practice, that building was not going to be adequate with its positioning on site. So then we moved towards the feasibility of taking that down and putting up a brand new building, which then we've gone through the process of doing such and working with Doug and Monona to facilitate that. From our last meeting, we took everybody's advisement and have pushed forward to try to, as much as humanly possible, rectify those different items. I know that landscaping, some of the tree species, we had honed in. We had two different roof types that we had there, and solidified on the flat roof, which made sense. We optimized parking, looked at, even in the notes to have roughing for photovoltaics at some point in time, EV parking on site. We addressed site lighting, and Aaron, do you want to add it at all to the changes as we see it today? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I think we touched on most of mine there. We had a conduit for the EV charging. We did add the limit for that 500-year floodplain onto the grid, 100 feet 5, so that was visible. Added in some wheel stops along that front sidewalk. And we did throw in that trash enclosure detail on sheet 8 to show what that's going to look like with that brick exterior. We did update the landscape along the south and west sides. I think that pretty much covered the changes we made.
Yeah, I know that those are details on the trash enclosure, landscaping around the perimeter of the building, the 500-year. So I think for the most part, we tried to address, and if there was something, I know that there were different items that we talked about last time with, feasibility of, parking garage, things like that, but we had gone through the process of addressing those. So we're down to a smaller version of the ask, and I think we tried to endeavor to get those as close as humanly possible.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak on behalf of this application during the public hearing portion before we close the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and move to item number 6B, consideration of action on the request by Madison Pediatric Dental and Orthodontics LLC for approval of the zoning permit for construction of a new dental office at 220 West Broadway, case number 2-019-2022.
Thank you. So the request here is a zoning permit request to construct a new dental clinic for Madison Pediatric Dental and Orthodontics at 220 West Broadway. The parcel is zoned Community Design District, and the Planning Commission reviews requests within that district. The applicant has appeared for 3 pre-hearing conferences with the Planning Commission and requests the formal consideration of this meeting. The 2016 comprehensive plan lists this as a commercial use in both the current and future land use maps, and it appears appropriate moving forward. The proposal is a 2-story, 12,000 square foot footprint dental office with surface parking. Site circulation makes use of the 3 existing curb cuts with no changes proposed there. Sidewalks to connect the 2 parcels, as well as connectivity within the parking lot for pedestrians. A wider entrance to the main building was added to address previous Planning Commission feedback. The city standards for parking here would be 1 stall per 300 square feet of building, which would require 79 stalls to meet code. No changes are shown from the previous pre-hearing, and that's a total of 91 stalls, including 4 handicapped ADA accessible stalls. The applicant estimates that about 40 stalls will be needed for employees, with about 25 to 30 needed per hour for patients. Bike racks are included near the entrance as well, and the utility plans do show conduit running to the southwest corner of the parking lot. Typically, Planning Commission preference has been for the EV charging to be in a quieter portion of the parking lot, so it may just be something for discussion there, if a different location would be preferable. The renderings have been finalized to show the flat roof design with a mix of stone, brick, and metal panel, including the movie theater facade that was received well by the Commission at the last meeting. Additional details for the patio were not provided, although that may be something to discuss here. But the details on the trash enclosure were, and it appears that this materials will closely mimic those of the building. And again, photovoltaic solar will also be roughed in on the building roof. The engineering review was completed by Darren Pope, the city's consulting engineer, and he joins us on Zoom tonight to answer any questions. Of note here, the applicant is pursuing a letter of map amendment with FEMA with regard to the floodplains on the site, and it's recommended that that be a condition of any possible approval this evening. And again, I did receive some feedback from city staff that was received after the staff report, I recommend, it's from Public Works, so I recommend those be sort of included, potentially with condition 4, satisfying Darren's comments. There's a lot of overlap there in terms of utilities, erosion control measures, and I believe Aaron was copied on those as well. Additional lighting has been added to the south, the west and the east facades since the last meeting, and improvements have been made to the landscaping plan, specifically on the northern property line, for the headlight screening, and additional trees were added to the rear of the building. There was some discussion about the ornamental trees within the tree island, and that was something the applicant has chosen to continue with ornamental rather than canopy, and the green space for the parcel is listed at just over 30.7%. So with that, staff recommends approval of the zoning permit application with the conditions as listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Doug. Before we turn it over to the commission, I'm wondering if we might turn hosting over so that they could share their drawings as we're asking questions. As much as I like Hollywood Squares on Zoom, I think it's always a good idea as we're taping and hanging on to these meetings for people to be able to actually see the drawings. So I'm going to ask that they get pulled up. And thank you for doing that. Okay. Good. With that, we'll start down here, Chris.
I think appreciate the way you responded to it. I don't have a lot of comments, but I will have a few first. So that's the appropriate to talk about that. It absolutely is. I think it needs space is fine on the site. I think you've done a great job utilizing the land that you have. I like the landscaping and the lighting. I think that accent lighting that you've added, I like it. It just adds to the movie theater look. I think it makes it even more festive and look like that old motif that you're looking for. I really like what you've done with that. One mention is in the back, you're patching that walkway for the storm sewer comes through. That's not an asphalt walkway, that's a rubber path. Have you ever been on it?
I have.
It's like walking on a mattress.
Yes.
So you might want to just correct your plans so whoever's looking at it, they know that that's that rubberized surface. Or maybe even a better option for your owners is you might want to just replace it with concrete. Everything else there is concrete. The history behind that is Rutabaga did not want to haul all the canoes and kayaks and lay them across concrete. You probably remember that. So what they did, we wanted that path connected, so the compromise was that rubber path that they could walk on, but they could drag canoes and kayaks over it all the time.
I forgot until you just said it, because I was back there on that one.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about, and I'm not sure the owners want a rubber path back there, but it's something you should look at.
For sure.
The staff report mentions a guardrail at the retaining wall. Obviously, a handrail does the same thing, and I assume I'm going to ask you, telling you on engineered wall.
Absolutely.
You don't have enough room there for a boulder wall.
No, absolutely.
Okay,
There's going to be a poured.
Oh, it's going to be concrete?
Yes, concrete wall.
Great. Then you've got that, and great place to anchor the handrail.
Yep.
Your oil and grease skimmers aren't allowed anymore, which is interesting because that used to be the standard minimum of detail to have a skimmer like that. But the reason they quit in Dane County was because as you don't get rain for a while and that sump starts to dry down a little bit, all of a sudden the next rain flushes it all right up through that. And that's why they quit using it, because it doesn't capture the oil and grease. It just holds it there until the next flush.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, you've got your inlet down here, but if that thing starts to evaporate and another big storm comes, it just flushes it all through, and that's why Dane County quit letting us use those. And I think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what you're planning, but by far and away the most effective cost-wise is just the inlet inserts. You can get the stainless steel inserts in the inlet. They have the oil booms in them. It's taken care of. Anybody can walk by, they can see that boom when it starts turning gray, they know it has to be replaced. It's simple to inspect, simple to replace, but that's not telling you have to do that. This is an option that is used a lot of times around here. Floodplain we talked about before. I have a couple questions on that. First, I want to be sure you understood when I talked about the 500-year floodplain, I didn't mean the building couldn't touch it. What we're talking about is you can't have a building opening that's below the 500-year floodplain.
No, we understood.
And if the building is touching it, it's going to come up on your building a little bit. I'm sure you don't want to make sure there's waterproofing there, because you absolutely don't want any issues there. The 100-year floodplain, where you have the discrepancy, is the one that's mapped by FEMA right now, is that into the building where you're proposing it?
Aaron, do you wanna talk
Yeah.
about that? Yeah, I can. Yeah, the 100-year floodplain as it sits now, according to FEMA and DNR mapping, the building is within that footprint. But if you look at the actual grade, it shouldn't be mapped that way.
Okay. I just asked because if it wasn't in the footprint, but just further out, we could allow them to start before they got to revised mapping, but that way you aren't going to want to start before you get to revised. We want to that.
Yep.
Okay. A heads up for the owners, your stalls, if you've looked at it right now, are painted tenant parking only on your extra lot. That's beyond the island, so that's just something you'll want to work out with your neighbor, but that's probably not appropriate if you're going to be using some of it. I think it was mentioned in the staff report again, but the patches on Broadway, or where we have to do, Monona Standard is the mill and overlay, the patch, but then a full mill and overlay. It's very similar to Madison if you work there. But it's a full lane width, whatever lane you're in, and then 50-foot of length. That way you can get a paver in there, and we don't have the patches that are up and down. Yeah. Signage that we didn't talk about, but I noticed we need to have signage on that north driveway going out to River Place, and that's no exit, and an arrow shooting them down. The whole reason, you have that as entrance only. Yeah, and the reason we don't let people come out there is because they get right into where people are queuing. It's not good. So we need some kind of signage there that makes sure people know they've got to go to the right, and they can't just peel out that way. Now, the cops aren't going to be sitting there to check people, but when there's a lot of traffic, that's the prudent way to take the right and come out the other one and get into the traffic queue. Okay? And that's it. Again, I love your architecture. I love what you're building. It's going to be a landmark. People are going to talk about this building. As much as I like Rutabaga, it is 30-plus years old, and this thing is beautiful. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Chris. Corey?
I like a lot. It's great. I only have a couple questions. Well, one is just a comment. I think the landscaping plan is great. I was just wondering, you have a lot of grasses there. Have you considered more native grass species? Indoor planting?
Yeah, do you want to talk to that at all?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but I think something we could talk about with our landscape architect and just see if it's a swap for a different type of grass, something maybe more native.
I think that would look nice, especially where you're located.
Absolutely.
And then, I was looking at the rendering. Do you have a stairway from your second, I like the second floor patio, I think that's nice, the one on the back line, we talked about that. Is there a stairway off the back, or is it just a first?
Yeah.
It looks like a super steep, but it's kind of render.
Oh, it's a shadow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a shadow.
Alright.
Yeah, no stairway.
Okay. Otherwise, I don't have anything. It's great.
Christine?
I think this looks really awesome. I really only have one question, which is on sheet number 4. I noticed there's a dotted line representing conduit for future EV charging stations. And as Doug mentioned, I especially, because I'm an EV driver, it always bugs me when the spaces, the parking lot spaces closest to the door are the EV charging spaces, because if that's what you're doing, these are like the 5 best parking spots in the parking lot, and so inevitably people will want to park there even if they don't have an electric vehicle. And a lot of people do this because it is the shortest distance from the electrical panel.
Like if you're just going off to the right of the walkway.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you could put the EV charging in like the worst part of the parking lot. So nobody parks there.
Maybe one of the doctors has an EV vehicle and they want to park up close.
Well,
That's easy.
and then I just feel like someday we're all going to have electric vehicles. So maybe you want to future-proof this and run conduit all the way around the perimeter of the parking lot, even if there's no copper in it. Conduit's pretty cheap. That's all I have.
That's great. Thank you.
Rob?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. We've seen it several times, and I think you've addressed the comments that we've provided well. The only thing I would add is you've added wheel stops to the accessible parking stalls. It looks like they're located in the sidewalk. I understand that's flush, but if those are 18-foot stalls, let's just push that into the parking stall. Otherwise, they get bumper overhang into that parking lot. So that's about the worst of it going. In regards to the landscape plan, I think the landscape plan looks good. Kareem's comments on looking at some more native options are good. Little Roostem and Bootaloo or Cytodrama would be 2 candidates that come to mind. And then you have Winterberry there. I'm assuming that's specified for its beautiful red berries, but you have to specify a female and a male to get that. So.
Okay. All right.
That's all I got.
I didn't know that until about 2 years ago that there was one female.
Yeah. Kim Dandy and Red Stripe. I think that's the common one.
Thank you, Rob. Brian?
Everything covered the wonderful design, and I appreciate the revision taking our feedback. So it looks good.
Yeah, ditto. I think that I appreciate the responsiveness, and I like the extra lighting. I think the whole thing is terrific, so nothing to add.
Great. Thank you. With that, unless we have... Chris?
No.
Unless we have any other comments, I'd be happy to take a motion. Chris?
Well, before I do that, I just want to mention too, as well landscape as this is, you don't give points for grasses and things. They add a lot to it. Your perennials add a lot to your property. I mean, this is really, really nicely done. If everything there is planted, it's going to be a showpiece. I just want to compliment you on that. Move approval with staff conditions as written, add Brad Brown's report on to condition number 4. Add condition 9 that there needs to be no exit signage at the northern entrance on River Place with final approval by staff. I'm going to add another condition on, just so we call it out, that the patching on Broadway has to meet public works standards. I know it's in his report, but it's an important one. And then condition 11, that the retaining wall details go back for final approval by staff. Staff does final approval. Staff will ask Aaron to review it for him, but that's why we always end up with staff, is because the final say will be coming from he or public works. But yes, if you will ask, Aaron will ask Aaron Holt. Correct.
Okay. So I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
It's been a pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Move to item number 60, public hearing on the request by White Horse Properties LLC, represented by Snyder and Associates Inc., for approval of a zoning permit for a new private drive for the previously approved CSM 16430, located at approximately 1208 East Broadway, case number 2-002-4 2023. Who is here to present tonight?
Hi, I'm Brian Erkin, my associate.
Welcome,
Hope to
Brian.
be in person tonight, but got a little the flu going through our house here, so I figured I'd say yo.
Thank you.
Would I be able to share my screen? Or?
I'll make you co-host.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to pull up the CSM here if we have something to look at.
There you go.
So as mentioned, we're here for a private drive that will be installed on an existing CSM, 4-lot CSM, that's conditionally approved in 2018. We're here now because part of that conditional approval was to build the private drive on the first of the lots is to be developed, and lot 1 is on the agenda right after us tonight. The conditional approval, as was brought up the last time we were here a couple weeks ago, did include some new geometrics, the private drive here, which we've incorporated into our plans, which included one southbound 14-foot entrance lane and two 11-foot northbound lanes, and a corrugated median that'll be mountable, and then some changes to the entrance to the existing gas station here. And due to some existing drainage constraints, we've also been working with the gas station owner. There'll be a portion of his lot, kind of shown in the text area here, that will end up being reconstructed to provide a little better drainage, and then we're going to realign through the existing stalls. I think it was brought up at the last planning commission meeting that once this private drive is in, specifically these diagonal stalls, probably not the best geometric for people trying to back up as other vehicles may be coming in. We're now showing those perpendicular here, and we've coordinated that with the gas station owner. Stormwater will actually be met for the private drive on lot 1. Included with their own stormwater. And as noted previously, we've changed all of the utilities to private south of Broadway here, including sanitary and water. I think it was also mentioned, Doug brought up that there is an existing easement here for access to lot 1, CSM 8819. We don't intend to change that at all. That will still exist, and they'll still have access. And we also addressed the previous comments from staff and Strands. I've reviewed the additional comments, and we're comfortable that we can meet the rest of those comments. I think the biggest one was probably adding a turnaround at the end here. So I think we'll probably end up putting that on lot 2 in like the access easement until lot 2 is developed. That sums it up.
Anything else, Brian?
No, I think that'll be it.
Okay. Great. This being the public hearing portion of this particular item, Ruth Ann, do you want to change it?
No, just that we have the gas station over.
Actually, if you do want, thanks very much. If you could come up, that'd be great.
And not directly the gas station over, because this is the best thing to do with what's available. His intent would be to keep it angled, but I think that doesn't work well with geometrics, and I think that is the point why we're doing this. But I think if you look at any quick trip in the entire state of Wisconsin, every single parking stall is perpendicular to the building. I've tried to look at 20 of them, since every single one is perpendicular. But, other than that, no, and I didn't want to bring, Tim Mentor here, but we do have an accepted offer on lot 2, and then of course we've had, the bank is waiting, for the approval before we move forward on lots 4 and 3. So we do have other users that are waiting, and they're aware of all of these geometrics, and they've been given all of these. So nobody should be taken by surprise on anything we're doing here.
Okay. Great, thank you. Do you want to say anything?
Not really, other than the fact that I support this moving forward.
Okay.
And we used to actually, my father used to own the gas station.
Mm-hmm.
That's there. They rented from us. And through the years, we have helped them out somewhat financially when they had to redo something. And then through the COVID, we also lowered their rent. So we've had a good relationship with them. And we just have to keep going forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here to speak during the public hearing portion of this particular item? Okay, then that being the case, we'll close the public hearing and move to item number 6D, consideration of action on the request by White Horse Properties LLC, represented by Snyder and Associates Inc., for approval of a zoning permit for new private drive for the previously approved CSM 16430, located at approximately 1208 East Broadway, case number 2-002-2023. Doug?
Thank you. So, just a little bit of background. I'll run through the staff report for some detail here as well for anybody following along. So, White Horse Properties LLC requests a zoning permit to construct a private drive to connect development parcels along East Broadway. This is outlot 1 of the CSM 16430. The parcel is zoned Community Design District, and the Plan Commission reviews requests within this district. The request was initially heard in January 2023 by the Commission, with suggested revisions, and the request is tabled. I want to bring that up in order of business with it being tabled. The CSM was originally recorded in late 2018, and details of that were included in the meeting packet. North Point received general development plan approval for their plan in late 2021, with the precise implementation plan approval waiting until this road and access to East Broadway is approved. The plan was shared with Strand Associates for their review. The review letter was included in the meeting packet, and we're also joined by Jeff Straka to answer any questions that may arise. Please note the stormwater for the road is proposed to be located in Lot 1 of the CSM, which will be the North Point development parcel. And responses were included to the Strand initial review letter from mid-January, and that's included in the packet as well. The utilities were clarified to be privately owned and maintained, which was the wish of the city. And it was also requested by the Public Works Director that the drive be signed as private, and there are two street signs that are showing that both on the east and the west, as shown in the plan. No street lighting is specifically shown in the plan, with the applicant stating adjacent parcels will address this, running north-south. The North Point CIP materials do not include this, and it's recommended this be included either as the CIP. Most likely makes more sense in the CIP, but which the Commission should discuss. Expectations both for lighting, but also for landscaping as well. Because the landscaping details here show a 5.5-foot terrace that will be seeded and mulched, again with the intention that the landscaping be from the adjacent parcels. This is shown in the North Point plans with canopy trees, ornamental trees, and deciduous shrubs all included close to the property boundary there on the west. So design changes have been made to include the 5-inch sidewalks, which would meet city standards, wider terraces, which have narrowed the drive lanes, as well as the corrugated median closest to East Broadway, It formalizes that planning motion, and is again in line with the approved CSM. As mentioned, coordination will be needed with the adjacent gas station, and also likely a construction easement. And the final piece here was the note from both the city's fire chief and the director of public works for some form of turnaround at the end of the drive. I spoke to the public works director, and that could be something a little more informal, such as gravel or something just there that can allow that equipment. But I'd certainly defer that for staff consideration, making sure it works with the fire equipment as well. With that, staff recommends approval of the zoning permit with conditions as listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Doug. With that, I will go down this way again, Chris.
Okay, so we're doing both of these in one action, right?
Correct.
We're doing the CSM and the street approval in one action.
No, the street is first.
But we talked about the CSM first, so we'll do the CSM later?
The CSM we referenced was the one from 2018.
Yeah, but where in our agenda are we proving it? Because it says it's F, and F is really North Point, I mean, is their site.
I haven't been able to review it.
It's confusing. I think we should know what we're acting on in what order.
Alder Holmquist pointed out that those materials are from 2018 in the staff report. We took that this reference there. These items are 6C and 6D, which is the zoning permit for the drive, the private drive.
So the CSM and the private drive are all one action?
No, they're two separate.
When is the CSM, not the CSM for North Point, the CSM that we're changing for the road?
Correct.
There are no changes proposed specifically to the design of within the outlook.
Well, no, that's not true. We have a recommendation with conditions, and I have some more conditions I'd like to talk about for the CSM, for the road, not the CSM for North Point.
Yes, the supplemental materials back in 2018.
Understood. So we're not taking any action on that?
That was already approved, the CSM.
Okay. So then we'll take it when we do the road, because there's some things to talk about on the CSM.
The CSM was recorded.
Okay?
So this one approved in 2018.
We can always do additional things tonight. Okay, so I'm going to talk about those additional things first with the CSM. And one thing we didn't talk about was access to Lot 1 CSM 8819. Okay? They have a joint access easement right now, and I get that. I don't know how long the county will let us have an extra curb cut that close to the road. And in addition, I'm not sure somebody would want to develop that frontage without that lot, but we should make sure there's some type of a movable easement. So if that ever gets cut off, that they're not landlocked, that there's an easement across the front of lot 4. The reason we had that, the reason I thought we were acting on this was we were changing some stuff and we negotiated with them, so I thought this would be an action item tonight, and you had different conditions than we did on the other one. In our packet, and you have that recommendation isn't the recommendation we had the first time. The one you have in our packet for tonight? That was not the recommendation from there. So
Yeah, we're both a little stunned. We don't, I mean,
the recommendation then is further back in our packet, and that the recommendation we had back then, but the one we have here with only 5 conditions is, so I'm just going to go through it. I think you can tell me. So what we have to do with this, we're doing something unusual. Our zoning ordinance says every lot has to front on a right-of-way that's at least 60 foot wide, right? Well, we created with this CSM a couple lots for sure, the back ones, that don't front on a right-of-way. And the way we did it over at Pier 37 is we made sure there is a joint access agreement in place for all these lots, that they all have access to this private drive that we've allowed. And we have to have some recorded document, just recorded with the CSM, or just recorded separately, but a recorded document that says there's access easements. Because who owns the outlot? I believe it's owned by White Horse right now. Will the White Horses continue to own the outlot?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, the plan is.
Sorry, Teddy, if you could come up to the mic, I'm sorry.
It's so we can hear it on the recording.
Yeah.
The three people on Zoom.
So, yes, currently the White Horses own, well, not Ruth Ann, but Jim White Horse and Dennis White Horse. And so the plan is that there'll be a joint maintenance agreement for private drive. And in that, we could certainly clarify or make crystal clear that you're asking that all properties have access across it.
Yeah.
That's what you're asking.
Yeah, what we have to have though is they make a joint access easement, it's recorded along the same place the CSM got recorded. Because if the White Horses choose to sell it or something else happens, I don't know why anybody wants to own the outlot. But it's somebody has to own it, and wherever that is, there has to be access easements anymore for all these lots.
Before we go further, I know this is, and I'm
Sorry, Mike, could I suggest, there is a note on the recorded CSM that says outlot 1 private drive is the ingress egress for all lots on the CSM.
correct. That's why I said one before you go.
And lots 3 and 4 of CSM 88. 19. So that's on it.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say. Can we look at the notes before we go
And
further?
then the only issue I'd have would be lot 1 of CSM 8819. How do they get access when that frontage redevelops? And
They have access.
they do. But when that redevelops, that access could get closed.
It won't be. From my understanding, that access is still there.
It is. It absolutely is.
And if the state took it away, obviously I don't want to go through eminent domain, and the state would have to pay. She has legal access, and they would have to pay her.
Correct, you would.
Correct.
I just always assumed that lot and lot 4 would be developed together.
We've tried, Chris, a number of times, and with the studio there and the things and the Harry's passing, they're just.
She doesn't want to talk.
Doesn't want to talk.
We'll talk, in other words.
Right.
So your comments are well taken. We tried that before, Chris, and I guess as a gesture, we'll at the point we don't have lot 4 under contract, so we could look and try to do something. Once they do their parking lot plan, I think they have to come back in for SIP and all that. I think maybe we'll just try to let them be. I think it's a good point.
So you understand the reason we had that 30 foot is because we assumed you would come in and take a right in there and then have parking towards Broadway. So if you have 20 feet of parking, 18 to 20 feet of parking, and 10 to 12 foot of buffer of landscaping from that site, and that's why that hit there. It would make sense that just comes right across and accesses that lot.
And if we could talk to her.
Okay.
But so we'll be cognizant of that when we come back.
And keep it in mind, because whoever comes in with lot 4 redevelopment is going to have to talk
well,
about it.
Chris, your point's well taken. If you were smart, you'd do that anyways in case you ever wanted to sell and you own lot 4, you'd be able to buy it and provide it.
Frontage. This is not frontage is everything.
No, your point's well taken.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So, I don't see anything, Josh. I don't see anything on the street plans that shows a 14-foot ingress. Is there? I mean, it looks like it, but the typical road section shows 12 and 12, or 12 and 12, because it's not down at the end. So I think we have to have some condition about that entrance is 14 feet wide. It's drawn that way, but I can't.
We could add some dimensions to the plan.
Yeah, we just have to make, because there's nothing there that confirms it, and the typical section that was included always has all the other ones. Okay. Turnaround, obviously. The street needs to be signed for no parking. It's only 24 foot wide. If people try to park there, you're going to have no access. So we just have to make sure we get no parking signed on both sides of that street. I 100% agree with our engineer about additional inlets. You've got in storm subbasin 2, you've got that whole subbasin coming down, and the majority of that's going over that plus the gas station water, and it's coming down, and now it has to travel slowly across that 1% cross slope. You're going to have ice there all winter long. because that street goes back quite a ways before it gets to the high point. That's a lot of water. And I know you said you don't have enough cover, but you do. You probably don't right where that inlet is, but you can always take another inlet off that, go as far south as you need to, set an inlet, and then come across the road and intercept as much of that water as you can. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a disaster there at that intersection.
Could I ask Brian, can I ask you a quick question? I should probably clarify it in a way. What is the...
Sorry, Josh, could you speak into the mic as opposed to sorry?
Thanks, Brian, to ask you a question. The red, on the east curb, is the red kind of backing, and maybe you can zoom into that. And I didn't quite understand how they were going to park up next to the gas station. I thought that was probably reject curb, the way you called it out.
I think it's a gutter.
But is there a gutter?
It's just gutter.
No, this is, the way we have it graded now is this is reject curb, cross sloping across. This will be mountable in front of these three stalls.
So it'll be mountable to the stalls. Okay. Just a little bit more detail.
Just for the stalls, yeah, they were really adamant that these are their most used parking stalls, and eliminating them, there was really not an option in their mind.
Well, I think it was said, do what you can to help the gas station.
They need parking. They can't lose parking. This would be very similar to what we're looking at up across from the high school. We have it in a number of areas in Monona where it's not that high of traffic where we allow some right angle parking right off the road. This is a private road, so it should be no different than a 24-foot drive aisle on a private site where there's some right angle parking. It's not ideal, but I think we can't hamstring the gas station. They don't have a lot of parking. And we'd hope that they would park employee vehicles there so there's not as many trips in and out. We'll see. Hopefully they will do that.
As Blake mentioned, we looked at a lot of options, including perpendicular acres here, but there just wasn't enough depth. And the cars are kind of blocking cars wanting to come into the home here.
Okay, now I have an even more complicated question. Under the review, I know Strand asked you to keep the street at no more than 5% for ADA. We have a lot of streets in Monona that are above 5%. A lot of them. And most municipalities do. And we go, I think, up to 8% we allow. We like 6, some municipalities, most are 6 or 8. And I think what we've done by taking that down to 5 is we've made that driveway steeper into North Point. And I'm worried about North Point. It would be nice to get that first section of that road, get a little more going on that, and then flatten it out, because that would, you talked about that, what, 12%?
Yeah.
I agree that 12% into their main driveway is bad.
Yeah.
Now, this would take you and Veerbecker and North Point, well, there's Veerbecker, okay, all working together, but I think we should get that road up. And we should have a 6 to 7% road just for that short stretch, but now all of a sudden we go from 11%, we get that down to something reasonable where it's going to have all that traffic. Maybe we can get that down to 6, 7, 8%. I think that would make sense.
Is it going to be the steeper going over the drive-through?
It might be, but it depends on how they do these vertical curves. I mean, you might have a road that comes up and then take it back down again for a while. And that's one we'll talk about for North Point. And I don't like 18% coming down, but I've built a lot of them that way. You know, a lot of people, especially downtown, do that. I mean, if there's any way to get that a little softer, I'd be all for it. But the one that really bothers me is that one coming in at, what was it, 12%, 11 point something? 13, yeah. So I think one thing I would like to put as a condition on there is that you work with Veerbecker to work out those grade issues, and a final approval by staff to see what we can do about fixing that driveway. And I see the owners of North Point back there nodding. I'm sure they don't like that at all either. So
some of the, I would agree with you, some of the comments for that first, try to get to 5 before we even saw the site.
Right.
On the other side.
Right.
But now, in order to get into work, the site to where Chris is going, when we get to the site has steep driveways, both into the first kind of level and then down into the parking. So I agree. I think there could be some work on that.
And I know you did it because of the 5% comment, but I'd like to see us rework that. And oh no, coffee. Shoot, what am I thinking? So that you there's 3. Sorry, Mike. Snyder. Yeah. So
Josh, could I ask a quick question on that?
Yeah.
Don't mean putting on the spot. We talked about this, later too. But I took that comment to mean, I guess, the difference between this being a private drive and not a roadway. And I know ADA standards say you can follow roadway
slope of 2 feet of drive, is it required to be 5% or less to meet ADA?
Private road.
Or can it follow?
I think you still class.
Right, but the outlaw is private drive, so I don't know, is it a private road or is it considered a driveway? Or considered a driveway?
It's on an outlot, so I think that we have a very good stance that it's a private drive on an outlot.
I wouldn't disagree with Chris there.
And we've approved everything to date as a private road, not as part of any parking plan. So
I just wanted to clarify that, because that's kind of the way I interpreted the 5%.
It was kind of the first time, yeah, that's part of it.
and I think ADA-wise, the more we can do to get that driveway into their parking lot down, the more will help that.
Yep, which is why we were coming up cheaper to begin with.
Yep, you gotta get that, and I don't mean to be jumping back and forth, but now, we didn't have the final North Point plans and grading plans and comments till tonight, so it would have been nice to have that before you switch your road down to 5%, but we need to get it back up so we can fix that, because I think that's a horrible situation, the way it is now.
That's the only way we can fix the street driveway.
Correct. And so we need Snyder and Strand and Deerbeck are all involved in that, and that's something I'm confident the three of you can work out, but it would be a good condition. I told you it was going to be complicated. You're laughing.
There's a lot of engineering.
Um,
Enough of that.
And then, Doug, I know you said it might be more appropriate on the North Point, but that's a agreement between them and the White Horses. I think what's appropriate on the private road is to talk about it has to have street lighting and it has to have landscaping. Now, they can fulfill that for them, and that's the deal they've made, but our time to talk about lighting and landscaping is when we're approving that road that's on the outlot, if we want something done on that outlot. And I think what we could do is we could phase the trees in and have a condition that the trees need to be installed, the terrace trees need to be installed as the lots are developed.
Or with a building permit.
Yeah, and as you develop your lots, you can do it with your landscapers doing the final landscape and those buildings, but just so that we have some mechanism that it gets done, but the conditions should be on the road. Yeah, and then we just phase it in, so you don't have to go put them all in now and find out they're in a driveway or something. Yeah, exactly.
That's appropriate.
So lighting's not addressed on the roadway in either application?
It is, it would be, they both be a condition.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, North Point's gonna take care of the lighting, but that's agreed between them and White Horses. We just need lighting on the road. And I'm quite certain that when they put lighting on the road, you're looking at each other, but that's what we've been told. But the condition is on the road, but when you put, same as it would be for any parking lot or anything else we build, we still want it safe. But I think when they put lighting on one side, it'll probably take care of it. I can't imagine anybody do any lighting on the other side. If you have some lighting down one side, that'll take care of it, so maybe they'll get a little credit for lighting it for all the lots, I don't know. It's between you guys.
Yeah, they've got fixtures that you can
Yeah, it'll be lit fine from the one side, so I don't think there'll be any additional lighting as you go another way, unless they take something else. And the turnaround's in there, so I'm sorry to make this such a big deal, but I'm done now. I'm going to have a condition too for the 14 feet, just because we all know it's a 14-foot ingress, but it just doesn't show anywhere that I can find on the plan.
That's appropriate.
Ready, Chris?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Corey?
I'll go with what they
That took too long.
Chris, too?
I'm good.
You got a lot? No.
That's pretty expensive.
My main question was regarding the perpendicular parking and how that was egress was going to happen, but I think that you discussed that. I think a lot was figured out with the road and grading. I had one question. On several pages, the most evident on each 401, there's that inlet on the west side of the road, and there's that dash line that just kind of dead ends in the middle. What is that? The magenta.
Those are underground that were recommended from the geotechnical report to the soil conditions.
Oh.
These are in sidewalk here and here.
Okay.
It's gravel underneath track.
Yeah. Okay. That was it.
If I could add to that, it's typical when you have a low point, when you have a sag, because then the subgrade water follows below the gravel into that, on top of a clay or whatever is there, and you have nowhere to go, so it's real typical anymore to have some way for that to seep off.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that. Okay, that's all I have.
Brian?
This is the slide to have up, because I'm confused of what is the mountable curve for the gas station site. Does it go all the way up? Can you trace it for us, Brian?
It goes from this station call out to this station call out. It should probably be labeled better when you get that updated. But it would be just in front of these exterior of these lines. These are the existing diagonal stalls, which would go away, and there'll be 1, 2, 3 perpendicular stalls here, the multiple.
So there'd be a full island to the north? So that full island keeps to the north of the parking, right? Yes.
Normal concrete.
Through here, yes. Which is why we have the crosswalk back here, before you get into all this stuff with the gas station. And there's not enough room actually to bring the sidewalk on the east side all the way to Broadway anywhere within the outlet.
There isn't? What is the distance there?
Here?
Yeah.
This is only a couple feet. I don't think it's even 5 feet. It's only a 50-foot outlet. Yeah, the outlet's 50 feet, so with 11 foot, 3 foot, 14 foot, then we got a 5-foot walk here. And then you also have the curb and gutter.
As you tell, I appreciate having a way to cross as soon as possible, and I do agree that the sidewalk coming down to the gas station makes sense. If I live in a residential area, I'm going to go grab a soda, I'm going to walk to the gas station. If you don't put a sidewalk, I'm just going to walk on the grass. So, like, that makes perfect sense.
So the sidewalk does connect into the sidewalk at the gas station, and then it would cross. And I believe the intent would be as these other lots develop, I'm sure they're going to want sidewalks there too.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the most ideal place to cross, and it has to do, actually, I'm not sure if it fits with the road or if it's more at the North Point development. When you're coming off the crosswalk off the development to hang a right onto the sidewalk on the east side of the road, that turn radius is not, that's too sharp of a turn for ADA on that sidewalk.
What are you talking about, Brian?
Coming from the North Point property,
Yeah.
south of their exit, onto the sidewalk, that now they're having to turn more than a 90-degree angle. It almost doubles that to then cross over the driveway to get down to cross over the street, which is closest to the bigger intersection.
Yeah, what you like is what North Point has drawn on their colored renderings is what you're talking about we should have.
Yeah. Which is maybe not the road design, it's like that, it's the in-between, where that crossing that's shown on the CIP for the North Point has the ability to cross over right away, and if you're going to go to the gas station, you're able to then make that turn and cross the driveway. So why send these pedestrians across a driveway just to get closer to the gas station to cross the Spider Drive? We should have them cross that way. Which I think is just ideal, and I'm not sure how much it does with the road versus how
the sidewalk further up on that side and cross at a different spot.
Yeah.
the crossing to be further south to align with the sidewalk in the residential property.
You can, if you wanna go to that slide, I know it's a lot of around, but you go to the north point, everybody can see it. It's on the first.
It will require more sidewalk in the road, the private drive.
It would require more sidewalk in the road right away. That always would be required, to just be installed now instead of once that lot develops.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I meant to say, so you're gonna still put sidewalks probably on that side, all the way to the end at some point when those lots develop, right? Probably come back to the foundation. Brian's asking to install that a little bit further, because that's a better place to cross than coming all the way down. People are gonna wanna kind of cross there, which is making that we start the window and then heading down and crossing to the other side.
And especially now that I have a better understanding that for those three stalls is mountable curb to get into the parking stalls is even more of a reason. Because if we bring people down to there, they're going to go straight across the parking lot anyway. So, I mean, the idea is to study a pedestrian access to the west and the safest manner possible. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense.
If we go back to the street for 401, if we have a chance. Perfect. So I see in between those two calls, that's what you're saying is the mountable. And to the north, that Trapezoid Hill looking shape. If I heard someone say that's going to be regular concrete, or is that going to be a traffic island landscape?
This will be grass, this area will be grass. There's just two concrete in front of it, so.
Okay, so we'll have landscaping in that area, and then.
Correct.
And then, okay. All right. I think that answers all the questions I had. Thank you.
Susan?
Okay, nothing to add, looks good.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? And if not, do I have a motion?
I'll move with conditions as written by staff. Add condition 9 that the road shall be signed for no parking. Condition 10 that additional storm sewer and inlet should be installed further south on the road to pick up the east drainage area. Condition 11 that they work out with the city engineer and the North Point engineer the grading issues we discussed. I don't want to put something exactly what it's going to be, but it would include keeping that road up and trying to make that driveway better. Condition 12 that the entrance or the ingress for that private road be signed or dimension or 14 feet, somehow know it's 14 feet. Condition 13 that we identify the mountable curb area approved by staff. The entrance is approved by staff. Every one of these so far that I've read is approved by staff. And 14, that the west sidewalk be extended to the south to create a crosswalk with North Point, approved by staff. Did you put the no parking? I did, thank you.
I have a motion on the floor, do I have a second? Corey, second?
Do you have any questions on any of this? The no parking just helps every one of the people.
We never intended that parking.
I know it, and that's why we agreed with 24, but when I looked at it, you know what's going to happen with somebody.
Well, I know somebody will think
park there, it's going to make it almost impassable.
Probably the police secondary.
Well, they can park there, because nobody can ticket them. And that west sidewalk is going to be a little earlier cost, but it's not a cost you wouldn't have. It just makes, and I agree with Brian, once we talked about it, it makes total sense to just go across and head to the north.
Okay, I have a second. I have, any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we all learned a lesson on drainage underneath the road.
I know, looking for detail though. I want it now though. I'm trying to get out of here.
Alright, with that we'll move to 6E. Item number 6E, public hearing for North Point Development Corporation and Green Lane Real Estate Group on request for consideration of a certified survey map, CSM, for the site located approximately 1208 East Broadway for a 75-unit residential development, case number 2-029-2022. The floor is yours.
Justin Zamparty with Becker. So here we have a one-lot CSM for the North Point development. This is combining lot 4 of CSM 8819 and lot 1 of CSM 15061. It also includes the proposed private stormwater management easement on the southern portion of the combined lot for the benefit of Outlot 1, which is for the private drive, which we just discussed. We do not have any issues with the staff comments in regards to the CSM and open it up for any questions.
Okay. You want to? Oh, no, we'll wing it. Sorry. Does anybody else want to speak during this public hearing portion? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. My bad, people. And we will go to number 6F, consideration of action for North Point Development Corporation and Dreamline Real Estate Group on the request for consideration of a certified survey map CSM for the site located approximately 1208 East Broadway for 75-unit residential development, case number 2-029-2022.
Thank you. So this is on behalf of North Point. Rebecca is requesting the proposed CSM combine the 2 lots for the construction of a new multi-family development along East Broadway. This is part of the larger general development plan, the site implementation plan approval process. Land divisions must appear for a pre-hearing, which this did with the Public Planning Commission in October of 2022. It also appeared and received recommendations from the Public Works Committee in November. I believe that was unanimous. And then following any Planning Commission recommendations, City Council will review this, most likely at their meetings in March. Please note that because this is consolidating 2 lots into one, this is not subject to the limits of no more than 4 lots to be created in 5 years. And of course, this was created in 2018. The proposed parcel has access to the private drive, the outlot that we just discussed, that is 50 feet wide, and enters onto the 120-foot wide county highway. The materials do state that the 2 separate 24-foot wide easements will be released if they're no longer needed to the site, and I know there's some comment out in the review letter from Sam. The proposed lot is just over 3 acres, and accommodates the previously approved DEC. And again, the updated plan also shows the stormwater easement benefiting the private drive outlet 1. With that, staff recommends approval with the conditions as listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Doug. Now, Craig. Yes, please.
It's simple, and they have to combine these lots to able to build on, or otherwise there'd be a building across the property, and I have no issues.
Okay.
Makes total sense.
Okay, good. And Corey?
No comment.
Christine?
I was just, the release of the easement, is that indicated on that proposed CSM?
They were removed, and I think that was the comment, one of the comments concerned that would be possibly shown. I think there was a discrepancy there between the 2. I think They previously been served, they will be released and officially removed from the document.
So by virtue of simply removing them,
Yeah.
the releases would be recorded prior to, according to the exam.
Okay, thanks, I'm good.
I just have one question. Is there any need for identifying access easement off of Outlot 1 on this, recording that on this easement, or this CSM? To the private drive? Yes. Or is that something that just needs to be identified on the private drive?
I mean, to have it, that was Chris's comment before, if they have it on a private drive that says everybody has access to that.
I don't know if it needs to be recorded on.
I don't think, I mean, you could put it on it, but I don't think you have to, no.
Okay.
I think it's clear.
If that's how it's done, that's my question.
If I could, we have no legal standing to tell them they have to record the access. The legal standing is with the people that own the property that they have access. And the reason we don't show a specific area is because they might want to move it. If we show one area, then it'll be taken that that's the only place they have access to the road. As far as the city is concerned, there's no height distances or codes or stoplight where we say you can't have access there. So that's why I would think we probably wouldn't on this.
Yeah. Makes sense. Thank you.
Brian?
Nothing to.
Susan?
Nope, nothing to add.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Move approval with conditions as written by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to 6G. Public hearing on the request by North Point Development Corporation and Dream Lane Real Estate Group of approval of a precise implementation plan, CIP, called Broadway Loft and Townhomes for the site located at approximately 1208 East Broadway for a 75-unit residential development, case number 2-028-2022. Floor is yours, Brent. Thank you for coming, and thanks for your patience.
Yeah, quick little funny story. You probably like to get on with it, but Madison Pediatric Dental. I was a client there when I was growing up, and I remember after college, I kept on going into the pediatric dental, and I was like 23 years old, and they're like, you might want to find a new dentist. And I'm sitting next to an 8-year-old watching the Disney movie. But yeah, I'm probably it's time for me to grow up and get a dentist. But no, that's an awesome story. Yeah. No, they. I think mine retired, but anyway, I thought that was funny and wanted to share. Other updates that I'd like to share. So, thank you for your time. We've met, 6 times maybe with this committee. All your feedback has been, hopefully incorporated into our plan. We really appreciate the fact that you took time to come and see the site. We really heard this committee's, voice on, getting appropriate level of trees and coverage onto the site. And one of the things I wanted to point to on our landscaping plan, this is a pretty big change, is that you'll see, we've added a lot of trees. What's not included in our points, I know points is just a guideline, but we've been working with the Dane County Tree Canopy Collaborative, and they're going to be providing us with 20 to 25 additional trees, canopy trees that we're going to put into the site in various areas to really, build up, some of that screening, but then also just kind of add to the nature that, already incorporated in that beautiful site. Those points were not incorporated into the landscape plan, so, our score's almost double, but add another 1,000 points to it once we get those trees in there. And I think that'll be really kind of neat, working with the Tree Collaborative. It might be something that we use on other projects as well, but they're really excited to donate the trees to us, and I think it's a great fit. Another update, just to let everyone know, it's not really design related, but Dane County and their CDBC committee did award the project an additional $300,000 in home funds that we'll be using, to help with the project. And so that's exciting. Everything seems to be coming together, and we're hoping to start construction
late spring, early summer. So with that, we look forward to talking through kind of the design aspects and answering your questions.
Fantastic. Okay. Anybody else here to speak during the public hearing portion of this application? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and we will go to item 8, consideration of action on the request by North Point Development Corporation and Green Lane Real Estate Group for approval of a precise implementation plan, CIP, called Broadway Lots and Townhomes, for the site located at approximately 1208 East Broadway, for a 75-unit residential development, case number 2-028-2022.
Thank you. So the request here is following up from the General Development Plan approval for 75-unit multifamily workforce housing development on lots 1 and 4 of the White Horse property along East Broadway. The GDP was approved in late 2021, and the development team returned with a precise implementation plan for consideration. The development includes one 4-story, 63-unit apartment building, as you can see in the rendering here, as well as two 2-story, 6-unit townhome buildings. Amenities include a community room, exercise room, outdoor patio, and grill area, play structure, and play area, as well as bike parking. So the development will include a mix of market rate units, rented 50 units, available for households earning 60% of the county median, and units available to those earning 30% of the county median and in need of supportive services. Lutheran Social Services will provide a service coordinator on site. The site will have sustainable building materials, plans for Energy Star certification, as well as a solar array on the apartment building's roof. The parcel is zoned Community Design District, CDD, and plans to take advantage of the flexibility of the district using the planned community development process, which has the 2 phases, the General Development Plan and the Precise Implementation Plan. The PIP is where greater detail is shown to the elements as they were outlined in the GDP. So the Community Design District, the zoning for that is language states that typically commercial uses. The site has a couple of roads around them in addition to certain roads. Residential is an allowable use within the CBD when part of a compatible mix of residential, commercial, industrial, or open spaces, realizing the goals of the comprehensive plan. Uses within the CBD should also serve regional and community needs for moderate cost housing. The comp plan does show this as commercial use, defined as land use for retail, service, commercial, and office uses. The plan also outlines an increased need for multifamily rental housing, citing mixed-use developments for the close to commercial, institutional, and transportation options is desirable. This was discussed a lot during the GDP review and understood that the remaining parcels, and I think we had some more detail on that tonight, are being considered for commercial uses, and certainly since the GDP approval, there's been a large increase in interest for those parcels as well. As mentioned, the applicant did receive WIDA 9% tax credits, competitively applied for those, and additional funding secured from Dane County Affordable Housing Development Fund, as well as Home Fund, and discussions are ongoing with the city's CDA as well regarding a potential TIF request for the project. I believe 56 of the units will be rent restricted for a minimum of 30 years and available to households making 50-60% of the county median, with 19 units also being market rate, and then the balance of the units being for those at 30% of CMI. Building elevations are included, and that's what is put up on the screen. They include a brick facade extending to the 3rd floor in places, composite panel with 3 different colors for the upper floors, balconies and patios for all units as well. It will be built to Wisconsin Greenbelt standards and receive Energy Star certification. The plans do show 63 units, or 63 stalls, of underground parking, 62 surface stalls, as well as 12 garage stalls for the townhome units. Additionally, 48 bike parking stalls have been shown, both at grade, below, in the underground parking, as well as B-cycle included, and that had been discussed previously as an amenity for tenants. The comments did include some feedback about the number of ADA stalls that should be addressed, and I did not see specifics about EV charging conduits. That may be something for the commission to discuss. The site access and connectivity has evolved, certainly since the discussions began. Access now off the private drive. There was discussion with the state DOT about the northeast corner, and that not being possible as access, which did require and necessitate the redesign and the plans that you see now. And I believe that it increased the surface parking by one additional stall as well. The landscaping plans do show extensive planting with 38 canopy trees proposed, and then additionally the additional trees, as mentioned by the applicants as well, that were not included for this, based on city standards, would more than double the guideline of landscaping points that would be should be provided, and site green space is also listed at 43%. The lighting plan is included in the PIP details with 14 1-floor fixtures proposed. The specific focus should be on the private drive, certainly as has already been discussed. And it looks, certainly during staff review, that maybe on building and the walking path could potentially have some additional lighting as well, based on previous feedback, just to sort of help with internal circulation on the site. Strand did review plans for stormwater. Their letter is included, and again, we have Josh to answer any questions. With all that, staff recommends approval of the plans with the finding of facts and conditions of approval. Thank you.
So I'm gonna mix it up. I'm gonna start at this end instead. Brian, do you wanna go first?
Who's done that?
That's all right, Frank.
I know.
That's fine.
Work my way that way.
I'm mixing it up, like I said.
Really nice. All right. Overall, I think the design looks good and it's incorporated a ton of the feedback that we've been going back and forth. So there's not a whole lot beyond what has already been clear. There are a few pieces that continue to kind of jump out at me. One, to start off with the architecture and building materials. So one of the pieces I know we talked about before was the increasing of the brick, but the feedback from the raised moving up to the third floor. I don't know if it's because the shadows are turned on for the bedroom, if I'm seeing 4 colors plus brick or 3 colors plus brick. Should be 3 colors. Because right now, if you look at the corner, that's like a bluish. Then you have a white. Then next to that is like a gray. And then dark gray. And then brick. That's 5. I believe the intention that we're going to keep maintain it to 4. And there's the idea that the corner that appears bluish in my eyes is really the same as the grayish by the other windows. Yeah. Because right now, with the 4 colors plus brick, it's very, very, very busy. Not only do we have flat panel, we have brick, we have horizontal, flat and vertical flat. Like it's going all over. And hopefully it's just the shadows. And I'm not sure if it's going to be like grayish or if it's going to be the turquoise. Okay. 3 colors plus brick is what the intention was. Okay. In the gray color or no, the bluish? The bluish. Okay. And then the vertical siding, what is that siding compared to the horizontal that's right behind it? Both of them would be composite material. Okay. The vertical is just the board and batten treatment. And then I think the balcony, given the shadows that turned on, I think they're the same, all the same materials, it's just the shadows on this one. Correct. Funky. Okay. Correct. That helps. I'll say easily charging for my colleagues on somewhere. Yeah. The lights were addressed in the road discussion, so I assume they'll get connected with this too. The other part that wasn't part of it was discussed in the road, and part of it was here as a suggestion from our public works director, and it has to do with depending on the other uses in these other lots. And as you may have heard earlier, my comment was really regarding how is it on a
If I go back to the very beginning when you came here, and there were a couple of us that were concerned about heavy residential use in this location. And since then, it was, now that that part has passed, come and gone, now the objective is to make sure that we make this the best development, and what that means for residential aspect to it is how to get them safely on and off their site, not only by vehicle access, but by other access. Because depending on what these other lots get developed, where that crosswalk is to get across that private drive, right now, if it's just stripes, that's great. We don't know what these other uses are. My concern is, if we have other uses on some of these other lots that are high usage, I have a concern that this half crosswalk won't be sufficient. That it will either need to be a raised crosswalk to slow down traffic, or some other type of mechanism to be able to safely get residents across the private drive, not knowing what's in it, right?
I'm not concerned by Diamond Street, it's honestly just people.
Make a bigger hump out of it, huh?
Well, no, I'm saying maybe it does merit some consideration of what, if the use is bigger than, you should say, hey, can put some traffic slow down.
Yeah, something in there.
I would guess that at the moment, you're correct. If you ended up with a hotel in the back, which I said I've heard everybody likes, well then we're gonna have a lot more traffic. And then my position would be to put.
Sorry, there was gonna be a quick yes or no, I was gonna let you know, but I need to have you come back at it, so.
The better thing to do is if you cross that, then this use becomes real heavy, put some, slow the traffic down before you hit the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And that would save lives versus, I don't know, you're, but then you're talking to save somebody's life, you're talking about something 12 feet wide that they would hit before they hit the person. So I think you're right, if the uses in the back are, the one that's planned in the back now is likely, just for lack of a better term, a BMW motorcycle dealership. You know, people will be coming in and out. You know, Saturdays maybe a little busy, but it'll be very 1 hour. It won't be, you know, where you're walking and you're just missing a car and another one's behind it. That'll take place at the gas station, and that's pretty good. Your earlier point was well.
We'll want to
move it away from the gas station. The second user would be the bank, which we thought we talked about the maybe when I first came here. Once again, the access will be at the front.
Okay.
And the plan for that back lot was parking, which would be very intermittent. So if things happen as we think they will currently, then you're right, a paved sidewalk is adequate.
Okay.
If a hotel comes in, I think you as a group should say, hey, you got to slow traffic down. And I would say to those, you've got them in other parts of your city where we slow, you know, and that should just be some distance. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other than that, I think that looks great. I'll keep kind of looking at some other numbers to keep up and pick up that. I'll come back up.
Susan?
Right. Yeah, I really appreciate all the updates you've done on this. I think it looks great as well. And thank you for clarifying the color scheme. I think so it's a little more clear. I was going to ask about the EV stalls, if you are thinking of stubbing something like that in somewhere. Is that, and if so, where?
Yeah, I mean, what we've done at all of our properties in Dane County is we've added at least one dual charging station in the garage. But I would commit to doing 2 of those in our garage. As it being more of a family property,
right.
We could do the 2 duals with some conduit to add some in the future. My preference is that they're in the garage because it's an easier way for us to kind of get reimbursed for the the recharging. But that we wouldn't be opposed to adding 2 dual EV charging stations into our underground garage.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was really good. Because I think a lot of the other things, I really like the landscaping. I'm glad you went into the, got the extra trees. I think that'll all help. And landscaping, trees along the drive will help. And yeah, I think it's, I've been excited about this project from the beginning, so I'm happy to see the progress.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. Rob?
I don't have a lot of comments here, but, I don't recall if I mentioned it last time, but I brought up the question about the accessible parking stalls outside there, and why they're not on the other side of that island, closer to the entrance. It's a matter of 40 feet or so, but. Yep.
Yeah, I think it just had to do with the grade coming off the drive and getting up to the first floor elevation. So keeping them on the right hand side or east side of the island, we're able to keep them.
Okay. To get the less than 2% across the field. Yeah. There was discussion about.
You were trying about, we're talking about.
That's what I was just gonna bring up now.
That, like 11-12%, come up all the way to that island.
And that's gonna get revisited?
Yeah.
So, okay. If that works, to switch that in the future.
It won't work to 2%. You'll never, you got 2% in the stall, we'll never get to 2% in that driveway.
Not on the driveway, I'm talking on the driveway.
Well, in that first part, the driveway's only a half a stall wide. If you look at that driveway,
Yeah.
on the driveway has, 5 and 2, 7 stalls off of it.
Okay.
That's too steep.
Is there a need for a railing on that wall, that 7-foot wall? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of access there, but I don't know if you started on the sidewalk on the east side or where that comes in. That wall gets pretty high. I'm just wondering if kids can get up there. You know what I'm talking about? Between the townhouse and the wall.
Put a railing there.
Okay, it's pretty tall, so.
No, I agree. I'm sure, if it was on the plans and we got out there and saw it, we would add a railing to it.
There was staff comment about, before this is going out of it, the southernmost sidewalk and the slopes on there, the recommendation to add a short wall there. I don't know if that's depending on the height of that wall. I saw that that's in a utility easement. So just something, if you look at those comments, consider. You follow me?
Yeah,
Yep, on the very, very south there. Yeah. That would fall within that utility easement, and depending on, I think it's gonna be just a boulder wall or something small.
That easement is just for the storm pipe. Outlet on the side of the drive and the basin on the back, so there'd be room for me to add on there.
Okay. There was several comments about the stormwater in the review letter from Strand. With those, I'm not sure, it says that they are going to need to be redesigned and resized. Is there any issue foreseen with those comments? The stormwater management is on page, I don't know what
Yeah, so
number 1.
we will be continuing, with the redevelopment standards. There was some changes with regards to existing lot coverage and what to use for curve numbers for that, so that is something we'll have to look into and see how that's going to affect the station sizing.
Okay. I had a question, and maybe I should know the answer to this, but I don't. Maybe you can answer it for me. But for those stormwater treatment facilities, those bioretention areas, will you outlet those into the existing wetlands? Is there benefit in not piping that and doing just like a overland system and a vegetated swale?
We will need an outlet for the underdrain. And since we're not doing infiltration, there's no way for that water to get out of the storage layers from the, under the bioretention.
Okay.
So we did have indicated on there with putting in inline check valves on those outlets so that in the event of, water backing up in the street, it won't back up into our system.
Okay. Yeah, it's not always possible to do that or consider it even, but since this is right on the edge of the property, going into an undevelopable land, thanks for answering that for me. That's all I had. Okay. Chris, please.
Thanks. A couple questions. I saw two spots on here, on CC1.1, where it says 8-foot tall privacy fence. I presume so that the fence goes all the way around the perimeter of the property?
No, it's just a privacy fence that's going to block out the gas station.
Okay, but then also to the
South.
so there are two 8-foot tall privacy fences, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if we need the one to the south. I didn't catch that. I mean, our main goal is to have the privacy fence at the gas station. I guess we could look at, depending on the use, we're planning on putting, if you see the landscaping plan, we're putting landscaping on that lot line. And so I don't necessarily know that we need the privacy fence on the south side, but could possibly add it, depending on whatever that use ends up being. But it sounds like that might not be needed, but.
And I'm not really, it's not the privacy issue I'm concerned about, but is there a fence around the entire perimeter of the development?
No, the only space that we would actually have fencing would, and so let's take off the southern side. I actually asked that we not have fencing down there. We'll make that change. But my thought would be we'd only have the privacy fence. It would go basically, from the sidewalk as you see here by the gas station, and then around, and then I would bring it past the DOT driveway and ended up in the tree line over on that side, probably. If we needed to, we could roll into the lot line. And I did see the comment that they prefer not to have a cedar fence. Yeah.
So I guess my concern is, or do we need to be concerned about no fence? Like, we need to be concerned about children just running into the, I don't know what this is, but unknown tributary to Lake Wabisa,
I would really ask that we don't put a fence up. I mean, that's part of the beauty of the site is the nature. To enclose it would be, I think, detrimental to the project. I do understand that, there's some concerns about, if someone would, go back there, but if they want to get back there, fence isn't going to stop them.
True. Okay.
I do want to say something on fencing.
You want to come up here?
No, I know people think fencing is
No, hang on, wait until you get up to the mic.
People think fencing makes good neighbors or is their thing, but actually it promotes crime because people can hide. People actually use the fence to hide, and so a lot of places are actually getting away from that, plus it catches trash. It never looks as good. I can show you hundreds of places around Madison where they can just take the fence down. It just catches trash. It's never. It would ruin it. I mean, the point is well taken to protect the children, but I think it'd be less likely. I would actually put it up. I just think it'd make it unsightly.
What is this unknown tributary to Lake Wabisa? I don't know what that means.
It's really just a tribute that hasn't been named.
Okay.
Other people think, like, big riparian runs, you can walk up it if you want. Regardless of where you start.
Okay. I noticed in the proposal summary that there's plans for an 86 kilowatt solar array. I presume, will each unit have its own electric meter?
They will. So the solar, it offsets the house meter. And so the property lights and those will all be tied to the 63-unit building, and then the common area electrical usage. And it's sized to eliminate about 90% of the common area electrical usage of the 63-unit building.
Okay. Any plans to, or are you allowed to, I don't know, MDA sometimes, I think, frowns upon people becoming like a little miniature utility, but, could the house meter supply EV chargers?
It would, yeah. I mean, the EV charger would be tied to the house meter.
That's great. By the way, I think this project's great. I think it's a fantastic contribution to Monona. I especially love that it's a mix of market rate and rent restricted. I was also curious about the Lutheran Social Services Service Coordinator. What is that?
So we work with Lutheran Social Services, and when we apply for county funds, one of their items is to help get folks, with that need housing services into housing. And so that piece is added to it. Lutheran Social Services has connections to referrals. They can work with the Salvation Army. They can work with the county with the coordinated entry list to get folks into housing and then provide them with services while they're there. So once we get the project up and running, Lutheran Social Services provides that service coordination. They work with all the tenants, not just the ones that, would be, the 30% condominium units, but all the tenants that may want to be connected to services, and they try to get them involved with whatever they might be eligible for. In addition to LSS, we've also established a really nice contact with the Dane County Veterans Association. I might be saying that wrong. The Dane County VA. And so we meet with them in the LSS on a weekly basis to help get veterans and other folks in need of housing services into the units that we're building in Dane County.
That's fantastic. I don't have any other questions.
I really like this project a lot too. I had just a couple of questions. And the first question is there's a note about having an environmental assessment done. And I don't know if you have or haven't, but I assume that whatever you assign would be something you can handle without changing any of the design aspects.
Yeah, we've done a phase 1 and a phase 2, and then from the findings of the phase 2, we've applied for a closure letter with the DNR, and have received a no further action letter from the DNR. And so there are some soils on site that may have some asphalt in them, and we're going to deal with those as they kind of get excavated. Most of that can stay on site. There isn't anything that we think is going to be, dirty soils that will have to, be hauled off to a landfill. But everything that we're planning to do here, works with the soils report and the phase 2 that we received.
I just wanted to say this on behalf of that we hired Thomas Call of True North. His exact comments were everybody thinks this thing was contaminated because of the cars. Not at all. There's nothing. He was surprised how clean it was. It has to do with this residual soil that was brought in, and only because of that is why we did the closure letter. Otherwise, prior to that soil that brought it up, it was actually crystal clean. Everybody keeps saying, oh, that's a contaminated. It's not. You get past that soil, and it's clean. And we have closure letters, so if anybody says that, please tell them it's very clean.
Yeah, we're going to have to have field crews and do some significant undercutting to get the foundation in place. But with all the testing that we've done, we did this best plan to move forward.
Okay. And then there was a note in the staff report about the ADA parking stalls, and that there are only 2 instead of 5, I believe we needed. Was it 5?
Well,
I was wondering about that, but I didn't see them in there, so you'll have to, I guess, just mark that, or...
We're going to add 1 to the surface.
You'll add 1 to the surface, and then there'll be 2 in the underground?
There are 2 there, and then okay. So I think we're planning for 2 underground, so we're going to add 2 to 5.
So I guess we'll give it a better condition. Okay. I looked at him because he did. And then, I know the B-cycle, I think it's cool. Is that a commitment that you have, or is it you're still in the planning phases for the B-cycle?
Well, I think it's been, I guess we'll discuss that that's part of your project moving forward and doing housing on the site. So we're committed to it.
Okay.
We're putting the B-cycle stations at our project in Pittsburgh. We're one of the first 3 business owners to put the stations in. So it's going to be, there's a lot of approval about it. The tenants are really excited. The tenants get free membership to the B-cycle, and so we are going to be adding those to the project.
So you only have 4 shown on the plan. You have a lot of bike parking, but you only have 4 that are designated for B-cycle. Is that what you think you're going to start with? Is just with the 4, and then have additional room for additions later?
We haven't discussed the total amount. So there's room to move that concrete pad if we'll be working with B-cycle and their expertise on what makes the most sense for usage at this site. And if they we could do 4. We have 9 stations at our other project, that's 127 units. So 4 is, I don't think, out of the realm of reasonableness, but if we end up doing 6. It also just moves how many stations are going to be there, with the 9 that we have in Pittsburgh, I think they're going to give us, 6 or 7 bikes. So there's always a couple open. So we might have, just a few more stations, to go ahead and, 4 to 6 bikes.
Okay.
That whole thing is dynamic, and we're hoping that the Pittsburgh project will give us a little more data. B-cycle Pittsburgh wide, just trying to figure out how many you need where, what the flow is going to be, what their this is going to be for employees moving bikes and batteries and stuff like that. So we look forward to a perfect start based on the 9 we have in the other locations.
Okay. I am excited about your expertise, and my other comment was just about, yes, it's putting the fence up and then having it be something that you don't have to maintain with the note about the wood. So certainly it's going to look nice for a while. It'll be good.
Corey, thank you. Chris?
But now you can cover that. I hope so. Lenny, would it be okay to share your mic with Josh?
Yeah.
There's going to be some stuff. Yeah. You just take the mic with you, Josh. I don't have to listen. So I'm going to start out, I just I see in the stormwater report you used
100-year rain event as the 16th. I thought there were new events we're using in Dane County now. Aren't we using higher rainfall totals in Dane County than that?
For which one were we?
The 200-year event. I don't think that's I think the updated one is 70 again. It just looks like in the water quality report that was all the old numbers that were used. And I know with the county ordinance they went up to I can't remember the names of the different rainfall events. You're probably not the guy that did that.
I'm not the guy that looked at that piece, but
no, I think you're not either. Yeah, we can check the rainfall. Yeah, I think it's the old rainfall events that are being used.
They're gonna have to go back and redo them with that.
I know we talked about that. It's just something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, no,
I looked at where you're at. I don't think you're going to hurt too bad, but just quite a bit more, especially just for passing safely. That 200-year event, make sure the gentleman to your left want to make sure it passes safely too. So I look at that, but that's the only condition is part of your review. I just wanted to bring it up. Infiltration. You say it's the groundwater is down 15 feet everywhere. Why are you not doing infiltration?
Contamination. I think DNR said you have to.
Contamination.
Well, I think the DNR's kind of already made that.
Yeah, and also because of the gravel layer underneath the fill that was placed on there would be your restricted layer.
Restricted layer, yeah.
But I don't. I'll use an example. The station that's behind the townhome right off the private road, the borings there look good. There might be some gravel back there, there might not, but why would we line it? Does the DNR say we have to line it? Why would we not allow infiltration?
And if you look at the borings, I don't see anything about contamination back there. There's one boring, hit water at 3 feet, and it was first water, was gone by the time they were done. And everything else is down 10 to 15 feet.
You're saying dig down 10 feet?
No,
Get rid of
I
that.
don't want to make them dig down 10 feet, absolutely not. But,
So where is that limiting layer? Isn't that limiting layer down?
sure, but why are we lining it to make sure it doesn't get down near the water? What's the point of putting a clay liner in?
I think at the time,
You thought it was
that was
contaminated?
before the, phase one stuff was completed on site. But, I mean, you still have relatively poor soil still that was placed on the site, plus with the gravel, the existing, gravel layer from when it was a car lot.
You're not really listening. If you didn't line it, you'd save those guys money. And if there's no
Yeah.
reason to line it,
We
why are you
didn't.
gonna line it?
We didn't have, and you probably saw it as in our report, we didn't know if there was a phase 1 done or a phase 2.
Right.
So when we saw that, we just assumed, okay, that's the contamination side and that limiting layer. But I would agree with you. I mean, if you can get infiltration and there's no contamination that you're worried about underneath,
And you can say, I don't know why we're putting a clay line.
you wouldn't have to clay cap it
The only place might be on the north end of that real long thin one on the east side.
on the far
No,
side.
you certainly wouldn't have to do all of it. I just, when you guys are looking this over, it's something to look at. Since we talked about road lighting as a condition, the other one, I understand you're probably gonna put it in, but you understand that. Driveway slopes, I probably said enough, but we need to work on those driveway slopes. You do not want slopes that steep coming into your property. It's going to, people are gonna look at that and they're gonna turn around and drive away when they're looking to rent. It's too steep. So, it's going to be, your work with Beerbecker and Josh and Calkins, but I don't think we'll have any problem getting Calkins to raise that road out. So it's just a matter of where it gets for you well, and we don't wanna mess up your driveway going down, but it's just too steep.
Yeah, I think when they made the last revision, based off your previous comments, I think the curve on that actually slid to the south,
Yeah.
which hurt us with our drive engine being lower down, on that vertical curve. So I think working with Snyder, we can come up with a better solution for that.
So that should be not only the grade, but that where that curve is located.
Yep.
Might be a little better if we work on it a little bit, but that's, I think, critical to your project. Curb appeals everything. Somebody drives up there and sees a driveway like that, but no, I don't wanna live here.
Yeah.
You have the nicest place in the world. Can you tell me what you mean by composite siding? You're not putting Texture 111 up there, are you? Texture 111 is composite. I gotta ask.
Composite siding could be either a hardy plank siding or skeleton siding.
And which one do we like better? LP?
Well, we talked about the fact that
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, we usually have materials. We look at materials, we approve of materials. And we don't have that, and then you say composite, so you don't see 111 as composite siding. I had to say that to you understand where I'm coming from.
At my word, there'll be no C111.
Okay.
And yeah, I think my understanding is the LP is a little safer than the Heidi Plank, although, because the Heidi Plank has caused some health problems, but.
They've since put into place
Right.
proper standards for installation, cutting to mitigation.
And sealing the ends.
Correct.
That was one of the biggest problems. Okay, so we can leave it up to you. I just wanted on record, we talked about that. It's hard to explain to LP.
Yeah, I think there was also an issue with the height, it had to be Heidi Plank over the real front because they went up the same stories as they did, if I remember correctly.
Okay, I just had a little twitch when you said composite. Remind me, is there a wetlands delineation been done here?
I believe there was one. Yeah, there was one done when the fill was placed, and then it was determined, that the wetland boundary was the kind of the eastern property limit.
Okay, I just so because when you look at the wetland viewer that they included, it looks like it encroaches on the property a little bit. I just want to make sure we're good with that. We have something to
Yeah, if you look,
have something.
if you look on, like, Tarsty's website, it shows the updated delineation on.
Well, the one that's included in our material shows it encroaching on your property.
It's been updated to be the property line.
Okay. I need to talk about these owner-provided trees. Now, it's an odd way to have it. We don't care who's providing the trees.
Right.
We just want to make sure they're on the landscape plan. And just for clarification, I believe they are included in your point total. Look at the canopy trees.
Okay.
Look at how many are there. 17 are owner-provided, and there's only 17 trees other than that on your canopy tree schedule. Or not 17, there's only 21 other than that.
I was just going off the landscape plan in the notes, but.
I know the note says that, and that's nice of them to say it, it was nice
Yeah.
of you to emphasize that they're not included, but if you look at your landscape plan, and I use a magnifying glass, there's, 2, 3, 2, 2, total, what's the 17? Correct?
Does it include any of the deciduous or?
No, evergreens have a separate schedule down there.
Oh, okay.
They are all deciduous, the 38 deciduous, but 17 of those are the owner-provided trees that we're expecting. So they are in your point total.
Well, we're gonna do 25 instead of 17.
Well, all right. Yeah. And when we're talking about trees, remember we met out there, your best interest to do all you can on the south end of that area. We stood there, you can hear it, so you're just going to protect your building. Again, people rent there the first time, but if they don't like the noise, or if it's too noisy there for them, there's a lot of new apartments always being built, they'll go somewhere else.
Right.
So just make sure we really pay attention to that, how you do it, you get extra trees especially. ADA salt, I was going to talk about, I think 2 in the lower levels is a minimum, because I suspect that's where your people that have the 2 needs are going to want to park down there with a stall and easy access to the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to have a condition, as Green said, and I'd say a minimum of 2 of them. I don't know what your thoughts are, but you don't have, when you talked about everybody's going to be downstairs, they aren't. I mean, you only have 63 units and 63 stalls, and a number of those are the double loaded. So not everybody that's renting an apartment there is going to be downstairs. So the other thing I guess I would say then is you should, again, you heard the early one, at least extend conduit somewhere, so if you want to put in outdoor EV charging someday you can, because every tenant won't be, we know that, every tenant won't be in your basement, which is why you have all these other stalls.
Okay.
That's all I got. The team did a good job softening it up. and again, I'll add the same thing. You've been here a lot. We've worked a long time on this. You've done a great job. You've been extremely responsive. And I was going to try to ask you a question, Lane, but then you had to talk about something else. I didn't want you to feel left out. Josh, give him his mic back so he can better? Really?
I just feel like this is going better.
You're part of it. That's why you're like ostracized to.
Yeah, everything's perfect. I just don't know where to look. This must be, most of the
Right.
You always be up there.
Right. Yeah.
You'd be looking at that screen. Yeah.
It's not like this.
But I like this.
Yeah. Again, thank you for all your patience with us. We're all trying to get the best project we can from an owner.
I had one other thought. We mentioned the native grasses and the other permit, and I was looking at this list, and you have the same thing that they had. So I guess take a look at your grasses in particular, and maybe some others, because
Shrubs too, I mean, there's not a lot of
native
representation.
species, especially in the site, where you want to blend in with the beauty of it. And then I also, there was I was remembering the lighting, you had a note in staff comments about the lighting, and not the lighting on the private drive, but you had the lighted bollards, but that wasn't on the photometric plan, and then there's also not very many on the exterior of the building. I guess can you speak a little bit about how you're gonna light the exterior of the building? Did I miss that?
Where would you like to bollards?
Well, you
In
have
particular.
3 of them shown on the walking trail.
Yep.
And I was just looking at the staff note, and it said that they weren't included on the photometric plan, which, I mean,
Okay.
I would say that could be a condition that the staff just looks at. You submit a photometric plan that includes that light.
Good.
I don't know what that will change.
Doesn't change anything?
No, there's no concern of light trespass, they're not gonna be overbearing or glaring.
Oh, that's true,
It's just gonna provide it's gonna be better, and I wouldn't have any concerns about
Okay,
running that.
okay.
As far as the wall pack lighting, I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's necessary or what presented or proposed. If anything, is there much wall pack lighting?
There would be some wall pack lighting at the exit for the building to get some light onto the sidewalks and such. And then wherever we're getting tight with light poles, then we'll take advantage of wall mounted lighting. So we do try to limit that as much as possible.
I don't think you said before, lighting from the east side of the private drive should be plenty of coverage with a 24-foot.
Correct. Yeah.
Not an issue.
No, I just want to bring it up that I don't have the lighting expertise to have the specific recommendation on.
I have one question as long as there's two things. One is, first of all, I really appreciate all the elements to this around sustainability, including the EV and the solar and the e-bikes and all of that. And since you also seem to be really good at getting money, I'm wondering if you guys ever gave any consideration to geothermal here as well.
We're looking at, speaking with the split furnace, the project's gonna have an Energy Star certification.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, we'll be storing, I think it was 250.
Well over
250. And we've actually, with Dr. Green Bill Halls, with the solar, we're gonna be like 500-600 points, like twice the wheat amount. We just haven't really, I don't think that we would have, I don't know if it'd be a good site for it, but we haven't looked into it, and I think it would be cost prohibitive.
Okay. Thought you might want to go for broke. And down the way there is going to be, actually on the other side of Broadway, on the other side of Memorial Drive, there's going to be geothermal, and this site seems at least off the east end. The higher the water table, the better the opportunity for geothermal. So I don't think.
We can definitely look into it.
Yeah. I concur with the rest of the commission that really appreciate everything that you guys have done. I think it's going to be a great addition as well. Brian.
I just mentioned, could you tell me, so I understand that the 8-foot cottage because on the far south side, starts with the plan. The one that's up by the gas station, we typically, in this type of setting, would only approve up to a 6-foot privacy fence. And then 2, can you tell us what the materials would be?
Most likely a vinyl product.
So like a vinyl solid fencing?
Correct.
Okay. And is there a concern with it being the 6-foot as we have in our ordinance?
We actually asked them to do 8 feet. I thought we asked them to go higher.
previously, because it is the South Basin and 6th Street wouldn't do much good. He's trying to shield some of that.
I want to have a,
I don't recall.
we have approved 8-foot fences in other areas too. Yacht Club is one of them. So if we're gonna do that, the one thing I'd say, Brian, about that is their grade's a lot higher than the gas station, so I'm not even sure how effective that 8-foot fence is going to be for them, but they're trying to do something with you. I mean, that retaining wall, it's 7 feet tall on one corner by the gas station? Yep.
I like Dan Connie's comments about fortifying with landscaping. I think that's going to give you a less of a maintenance issue and a better overall product. I mean, I appreciate what is trying to be done, but I think going green, there's some merit.
So not doing the privacy fence and just doing the landscaping?
I'm personally okay with it.
When I look at where you're also putting the fence, I think there's also a second piece to the fence. I think one of it is from the stream.
Right.
Another piece of it is to encourage pedestrian flow and other flow to exit the private site, the private drive area, rather than exiting on this other side. I'm not suggesting a vehicle's going to go there, but I mean, if the flow is we want to direct people to use the drive as their entry and exit point, even if it's pedestrian, I think it makes sense by going all the way across. If it's not, and it's, we want pedestrians to be able to cut through there, then maybe landscaping is more appropriate, allowing the path to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm envisioning a matured landscape row of Iowa juniper or something like that, like a native dense form that quickly discourages kind of cutting through. That's sometimes wishful thinking, I think.
I don't think we want people to kids cutting through to go to the gas station and then running into the parking lot.
They're gonna run around the corner. Essentially goes to 20 feet further down.
For me, I think probably both, which is to say, I think probably a fence and landscaping is.
I don't think that's a bad idea, but I think you gotta work with the gas station because you're running out of field to get the fence in there, and you'd have to end up just planting probably on either putting the fence or putting the landscape. It's gonna go over property lines. You don't have room to do both. In what I'm envisioning as far as landscape palette is concerned, you need a little bit of width.
Yeah, especially on the eastern side of parking stalls where it's pretty tight.
Well, you're putting in a limestone wall, correct? You know, limestone wall is going to take quite a bit of depth just by itself.
And how high is that wall?
Eyes off, it goes like from almost nothing up to about 5 feet. But it is 5 foot tall, next to an 8-foot fence. Still keeps headlights.
That's true. I think some of this is, I think some of it can be just left up to you. I think the approval is what you're sensing here is like, the privacy fence makes sense if that's the desire versus landscaping, but I'm not gonna.
I'm kind of with Nancy. I like both. If they're going to a chain link, it's a driven post. It doesn't take up much room. I know they're running out of room, but they're already running out of room for a nice patio or landscaping. But are we intending that we want to get some direction other than what we're seeing?
In that sense, you're trying to drive it all the way to the far eastern part, that corner right there?
Yeah, we could.
I mean, if you're
That
driving
would
all
solve
the
the problem.
Yeah. If you're going all the way to there, then it really is to help contain pedestrian use to flow the other way.
Right. So if that's the desire, then you also have a little bit more room over there to do some landscaping and that. If the desire is to stop the fence. I think I'm trying to move it away.
Yes.
Yes. I think we heard that it was already approved.
Okay.
I think the height of the site, like, that's quite our line, as long as you put it in that way.
We approved it, we just, I think
No.
we talked about it, that it would be okay. It should go higher.
Does anybody care if it's 6 instead of 8?
Does anybody care if it's 8 instead of 15?
No, 6 instead of 8. It's shown on our plans, what we're approving tonight, it's shown as 8-foot fence.
Right.
Is there people here that would not like it if it was a 6-foot fence? Because that's what he just asked us.
So if I'm envisioning a vinyl fence, solid vinyl fence, I don't know if I can say this, is a 6-foot fence going to be more durable?
It'll be more, resistant to wind. It'll feel
The answer
more,
is yes, they put about 10 foundation on either one, and you've got a great leverage with the wind when you get up there.
Yeah.
it'll feel
So
more.
what I don't
residential.
want is an 8-foot fence that's all cattywampus.
It'll feel more residential.
If the resiliency of a 6-foot fence is going to be better, then I would be in favor of a 6-foot fence.
I think the scale of an 8-foot fence might be really, really big as well.
I'm in favor of a 6-foot fence.
I think there was a 6-foot long of a landscaping. I mean, I'm personally with it. I mean, obviously, it's not like the people that live in this building aren't going to be looking at the back of this dog, right? So, except for the first floor, exactly. But I'm saying that, I'm just saying that I think that's part of the reason why you're talking about that fence renewing. Again, is so the kids don't run, or people don't ignore the path and instead they cut through, into the street, and so.
Okay, so the condition I'm intending to include was just to follow the discussion tonight and leave its final approval to staff, at which point staff's going to want some direction on it. Will you prefer a 6-foot, prefer 8-foot, or do you want to leave it up to the developer? I think he needs clear direction on what we're talking about.
Did you have a vote, 6 or 8 feet?
I do not. I'm fine with leaving it to them. I thought I heard you maybe prefer 6, and if that's what you prefer. I don't recall, if we asked for 8, why was that? Does anybody remember? I mean, I don't know. I do like the idea of a fence there. I just think it's better to have people not being able to go back and forth there usually. And go on use the sidewalk, but whether it's 6 or 8, I don't have a strong feeling.
Do you have a strong feeling?
I prefer it. I could be convinced of it.
We can switch.
No preference, I just want a fence and landscaping.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's pretty clear. We're leaning towards that. You got it?
That's a question for Doug, is
Yeah.
staff approval and what they come back with. And what they come back with, they're going to have the material you want to look at, make sure it's going to look good 5 years, 10 years from now.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just trying to make your life a little easier.
Appreciate that. I know we appreciate that. All right, with that, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I want to make one more comment first, and that's, we talked the last one about railings. I don't sit here to say you have to have one, but that limestone wall is really close to those parking stalls and 5 foot above. It's just something you want to look at. I don't think, it's not a walkway there, it's not a place we're taking pedestrians, so it's not required by code, but just something you'll want to look at. That's not a condition. Okay, move approval, rewrite the recommendation to say that we are recommending that council approve the CIP and then keep it all the same, but we're not approving it. We're recommending approval. Finding of fact is written, conditions 1 through 9 is written, condition 10
which talked about the lighting along the eastern line of the private drive. That was included in the previous approval, so let's just change that to the final look at the lighting shall be coordinated with staff. We don't know where you're talking about putting wall sconces or the little wall packs. Obviously, you've seen the stuff that looks like it's all shielded, but I think when you get it all figured out, you just coordinate that with staff. If Doug sees anything that he doesn't think looks right, then you bring it back, otherwise you don't need to. 11 is written by staff. 12, that the construction of the private drive needs to commence prior to or concurrent with this project. 13, you might want to combine them, but I got them separate, that the completion and acceptance of that private drive needs to happen prior to the occupancy permit. 14, that the grade reworks that we've talked about tonight need to be done, and they can be approved by staff. 15, just revisit your infiltration and ability and final approval by staff. And that could include just eliminating that clay liner if staff or our engineer feels that you get not appreciable infiltration there, and you have to go too deep. Because there's not only that gravel layer, then there's a peat, then there's a clay layer. But 16, a minimum of 2 ADA stalls and underground parking with a total of 5 on site. 17, what happened to 17? Where did you do that, Kareem? Oh, there we go. The EV charging that we talked about in the garage and the exterior conduit is provided somewhere in the future if it's needed. Okay. 18, depending on future uses, you may need to come back and put traffic calming into the private road as approved by Planning Commission.
Private drive.
Private road. It's a private road.
We can call it a drive.
No, I'm calling it road. Condition 19, the fencing changes, including the type and location, be approved by staff. And again, with that, I'm going, if you want to eliminate the one that the plan says you got a fence there, and that's part of that the commission felt it wasn't necessary. We also talked about extending the other one past a little bit just to make sure that we keep all the pedestrians going that way, and then the type of fencing that you'll look at, as well as the height.
Okay.
And then 21, just revisit the landscaping species that you're proposing and final approval on that with staff. And of course, what we're asking for there is some more natives, and just take a look at what works and doesn't.
Okay.
That's it.
Point of clarification, please. I think
Need a second to discuss it.
I'll second.
Thank you.
point of clarification, just the final condition,
Yep.
you mentioned 21.
I'm sorry, I crossed out the railings. I was going to have it as a condition that was 19, so I remembered it when I did the new 19. I didn't remember when I did the 21.
The landscaping is 20.
Yes, yes. That's a good point.
Okay,
Corey?
Another point of clarification with number 18, you said traffic calming measures may be needed, but wouldn't that be for the outlet owners to?
No, I did it for them, and that's anticipating that they would pay for it. And here's my reasoning. We're not making them do it now. We're saying you're okay with a straight crosswalk. But we recognize the point that this may not be a good scenario, which Brian brought up. And it does have to be changed. It's a crosswalk, so their people can come across there and just have clean and unfettered access straight down. So I think it's a really good point. We're leaving it as just a straight crosswalk. The uses to the find any big deal, we'll never come back. But if we see a real issue, we'll come back to the condition of approval. We'll come back to the property and say, we got to look at this. What can we do to make this crosswalk a little bit safer? Mm-hmm. Hopefully, that's. Well, actually, all the conditions, this is your chance to talk about it before we vote on it. These conditions, anything in Strand's report, is there anything that you don't feel like you can satisfy or you don't think is appropriate?
I guess in regard to the crosswalk, wouldn't that be a condition of approval on any future development that would be causing those greater traffic impacts? If we're already approved and under construction and something else comes along that has more traffic than they want, wouldn't that be a condition of approval of their project.
That's a nice try, but no, we're gonna keep it here because if the crosswalks being there just to be able to get your people across there and get them going.
So no one else to the south is gonna walk on this sidewalk and cross over?
Well, I'm sure
Sidewalk for the whole.
there is nobody else on the south of you.
Not now.
Well, I don't think that's buildable south of you.
Yeah, there's no.
Well, there's one, but most of it isn't, so no. I would say it stays here, and if in the future and if they have a lot of pedestrians, they're not gonna, hopefully they won't have a lot of cars, but this is what's being approved tonight, so to be able to have a condition to fix it, or we just can go back and tell you to put it in right now. It sounds like the White Horses will.
You guys own that whole private drive outline.
No.
It's possible it could happen in the future, but as of right now, it's not determined.
It's awkward. But as it goes tonight, we're looking at your approval for your traffic and your pedestrian.
I mean, it makes sense. Although, you're right, like the option is, well, we'll approve it, we put it in now, and then we may never need it.
And as Brian said, it may be the wrong spot, maybe it just doesn't work out.
And I certainly appreciate, the feedback about the road and the slope, and being able to come up with a solution to kind of fix that. Because, it's been a chicken or egg scenario. It's the road or the development coming first, and now we're finally here together to talk about it.
And Strand gave the right comment on that, but then when you look at overall, we never had your grades before. Tonight, when we talk about all this stuff, this is the first time we've really had your grades. When we talk about where the grades are, fence, we didn't know you'd be that far above the existing site before, so a lot of these things you gotta understand, as many times as we've met, there's a lot of new information tonight that we dig into the details, and so once we can see that, then that changes, the look on the other road. Is it better to have that road at 6 or 7% and cut you down to 7 or 8%? Absolutely. I know the report asked for 10. I'd like to see it down at 8% or less if you can make it in that main driveway.
Okay.
But again, we have a lot of really creative minds that will be working on it now.
Yeah, we definitely have to talk to you over that.
Is there anything else, for example, in the Strand report that you don't agree with?
No.
Okay. Now's the time to talk about it, it is.
Okay.
You guys don't, you're good?
You're good?
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second. We have concurrence with applicant. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Simon?
All right, thank you so much.
John, I hope you make a huge part of the hockey game.
Oh, now it's a bit of a sister to drive home. But it's important. Actually, there was birthday ice cream afterwards. So you probably help me there.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, thank you.
Can I hang out?
Are you over?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Long wing Johnny out there.
I take it back, I don't want to re-up.
Okay, with that, we will move to reports. Doug.
Thank you. The economic development update, a couple of the projects that were discussed tonight will be coming to the CDA. The February meeting is actually being rescheduled and just pushed a couple weeks due to some scheduling challenges, but the private drive for this project as well as the North Point project will both be coming forward for sort of a second appearance before the CDA, as well as the Walter Wayne, the vacant lot site on Monona Drive as well. So quite a full agenda. The packet has been posted for that. At this point, it's looking sort of a mid-March, which would not take anything out of sync. There would still be a late March meeting as well. It's just pushing a couple weeks due to member availability and quorum challenges for that. The upcoming Plan Commission items, the next meeting on March 13th, we're looking at a new zoning permit for the former Angelo's space. For a new restaurant to go in there.
What's doing?
For a new restaurant, a new Italian restaurant to go in there. So that's going to be coming forward for a consideration. The second phase of the Chipotle development, sort of the white box of that construction of that space.
Do we know what's used for that?
One of the two tenants would be coming forward for a zoning permit as well, and that would be it's a commercial or a retail use, a cell phone user to go in there. So there's been some changes with the reallocation of that space a little bit, but it would be two tenant spaces rather than the one. A couple design changes that were made, but for the most part, the site is sort of prepared for that through all the other elements. So I'm going to post that for a consideration, most likely one lead. It's very much a related building to the other one. And then finally the residential CSM, the Shore Acres CSM, would be coming through for its formal read. That's going to Public Works this Wednesday as well. Thanks.
Anything relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Something from staff. Department heads met with Nehemiah a couple weeks ago. We've been doing a training with them sort of throughout for quite a while now, and one of the elements to that was looking at goals within our departments and sort of opportunities to work on diversity efforts, and certainly a lot comes within the planning world and housing and different elements to that as well. But one that we're looking at is sort of more of a shorter term item that has been brought up in the past here as well, was the accessibility and the reach of the meetings, and sort of the noticing and things like that, and going above and beyond the traditional noticing, the mailings, the newspaper, and sort of the legal requirements, but also getting something on the ground. So we're looking into the fake signs that have been discussed, a little bit more like Madison does and some other municipalities. So sort of something on site that says there's a meeting in 2 weeks or something like that. So still things to be figured out there in terms of which get that, which goes if it's a zoning permit, for example, or what constitutes the need for that. But definitely something that I think ties in well with that.
Well, it's not a bad idea. I mean, we've done it in Madison. The applicant has to go, fill it out and stake it there. So all you have to have is that blank form, and a lot of people see those.
Yeah, absolutely.
That don't listen to everything else.
Yeah. That's it.
Anything on updates, discussion on sustainability? I would just, as I did, I think it's recent meetings, as reported at the last meeting, the Transit Commission has a survey up for everyone in the community to take. If you haven't taken it already, please do.
How many responses have you received?
As of midday today, it was about 650.
And what's the balance of?
Oh, it's way more complicated than just the balance of. And the survey is open until March 24th. So, again, encourage any business owner, manager, employee, or resident of Monona to take the survey. With that, any request for information? Yes.
I have one you brushed on it, but what do you hear from Chipotle? When are they going to open? I mean, it was originally what, November, December?
It's approaching. It will, just at the time of year, certainly be on a temporary CFO. There's items that at this time of year would not be conducive. Some challenges with lighting and things like that as well. So it'll be a conditional, certainly a temporary CFO that would be satisfied later on, but weeks at this point, I would say, rather than anything else.
They were going to put it up in 2 months. Remember when they came here?
Is this just having our time getting supplies, or what?
I think one of the challenges here is between sort of the different entities. The Olrig group were sort of the white box, and then the build out was
What's a different person building it out than?
Correct.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's been some challenges with that, and but I know the leadership on the site has recently changed and things are moving along.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
I guess I have a question too. Just the village lanes, is that not going forward at this point?
We have staff and a couple folks here as well have had meetings with the owners of that property. some discussions both from a CDA TIP side of things, but also Plan Commission, continuing to sort of ask, well, is there an opportunity to move this forward, or is it a revision to the DDP or something like that? And certainly keeping them apprised. I would say a couple projects that have come through since, a couple things, that have been incorporated with those, a couple ideas as well. So we've been sharing those. I would say at this point, that feedback's been given to them, and, kind of extended those invitations to discuss it with the commission. But I think at this point, I don't really have any updates on that, I'm afraid.
Any other questions? Okay. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Corey's moving to adjourn. We have a second over here. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
How do you, Rob?
10 minutes too late.
Did I say 2.5 hours?
What's that?
Oh, I was
Good.
I told Steve, I'm like, hour and a half?